I did have my once a decade colonoscopy last weekend, and I got an A+ from the doctor.
Oh, well done. What was your polyp count?
I don't know. He didn't mention that. Yeah, he just said they were all good to go. See you in 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's that long between them?
I guess it is if you don't have much going on. That's bad.
Well, the good news is I had mine a year ago now, and they said see you in 3 years, which is still before me being 45, and that one cost me $1,000, so I just know that I'm going to have to spend another $1,000.
Once you hit, though, like, I think it's now 45, maybe?
Yeah. I'm going to be 40.
It'll be covered.
I'm going to be 42 on my next one.
Yeah, it'll be.
Me too.
Because this one, I was ready to throw down some money.
So if anybody wants to start donating money to a GoFundMe for Jimmy's 42...
Jimmyoscopy.
the 42-year-old...
Jimmyoscopy Palooza.
Not really covered by insurance, poop poker.
Get out there and check your huckleberries.
Hashtag.
But in all seriousness, listen to your body and get the screenings.
The more you know. And knowing's half the battle. G.I. Joe!
Man, I love all those G.I. Joe videos that they did 20 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Don't let anyone touch you in your bathing suit space. We want to talk about songwriting process that we have or that we've used, maybe specific songs we've written. We've tried different ways to write songs.
One of the things I'm hoping out of this conversation that we might get is feedback from other bands about how they do this. Because I know how you and I have written together for a long time. The three of us have written together for 12 years now. But before that, I have no other experience outside of those couple of bands. Mm-hmm. So I know how either I or we have always done it, but I'm really curious how other bands go about this process. Because I feel like we've always had, like, not one way, but like 3 or 4 ways that really work for us. And I'm sure other bands have either ways that work for them or one way that works for them. I don't know how it works for most. The interesting thing to me is also the the single songwriter, like mm-hmm. What do you call it? Like a solo artist. Yeah. How they do it. I'm sure they have one way they always do it because they're by themselves and they handle it how they want to. But as a band, I'm always curious how other people do the same thing we do, or how we go about it. But we should go back to like our debut record, because our debut record, when we first started in my house over the colony, we were all kind of bringing like all the stuff that we had been messing around with in our own heads for a little while to
we all
the table.
dumped a box upside down and we're like,
just like, here, what can we make out of this?
Yeah.
But I always think about this because I feel like a band's debut record is sort of one of the easiest records because you're picking your like 10 to 12 songs from a basket of 30 songs that you've had sitting out there for a long time between different band members. And then it's always the second record that is the one that really that's when the band figures out what they're doing or how they go about it, because now we're starting from scratch as a 3-piece or a 4-piece or whatever.
Yeah.
Versus when we first got together, of course our debut album didn't really have a whole lot on it that came from the very beginning of the band, because some of those were just like songs we worked through and played live, but a lot of them didn't make our first album.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So I guess we really did still kind of write a bunch of stuff as a band the first time, because we also had Cole in the beginning.
Yeah, we started off with Cole in a 4-piece, and before we were tracking, we
Cole, Josh's younger brother, by the way.
We reinvented as a 3-piece.
There's probably a quarter of the songs in the first album, like 3 or 4 tops, that he was part of the writing process.
Yeah.
Or that we brought to the table.
Yeah.
When we started jamming and stuff.
Yeah.
And then he left, and out of necessity, we were like, well, how would we do this then?
Right. It kind of
forced us to find a different way.
Yeah. It also kind of just forced us to figure out what our sound was.
Mm-hmm.
Like how we were going to approach it as a 3-piece versus 2 guitars and all that kind of stuff.
Which, like, how are we going to play this song without Cole?
Right.
And his part?
Did we?
And then we realized that
Cole?
all we had to do was cut out.
Did we?
All we had to do was cut out Cole's part.
And it got instantly. It was so much better. we replaced Cole with the MacBook.
Yeah. We're Josh, Jimmy, JD, and MacBook Pro.
So we are kind of a 4-piece.
What was cool about it, though, or I guess what it forced us to do. So the first thing we started doing, you can hear it in the first record, we started to try to fill some of the void with programming and different sounds we could do that you put together through the computer. And so you can hear things like, some of those older songs.
Well, I think like in the very beginning we had stuff like Crawl Away.
Oh, yeah.
And that stuff, that was all really just 2 guitars, bass, and drums.
Mm-hmm.
But then we got into, are you talking about stuff like from the debut record?
Yeah.
I mean, stuff like Hypnotized and Hyperdrive and stuff like that, Drive, those songs were a lot, not necessarily driven by programming, but they were a big element.
Yeah, they were very noticeable, like a virtual band member in some of those songs. That and there were still songs that we kind of wrote around some of that, but I think what was starting to happen in our second EP, Circuitry, we wrote some songs that you could tell we had an idea, a programmed idea that was kind of the foundation that we wrote around. But in a lot of the other songs, it was just accenting some things.
Yeah.
And it was almost like there wasn't necessarily one central thing that we were building on. We were all just contributing to the overall. And in the Fever Dream, if you don't know, only we know, but it would be hard sometimes to know, is that a guitar? Is that a...
Right. Or just some texture.
And it wasn't even always like, hey, I've got a chord progression or a guitar idea, or sometimes it was just, we just spontaneously went in the same direction.
Right. I think one of my biggest pet peeves from even back when in our Between Thieves days was label, or I guess it was record label. It wasn't really like on the production side or on the engineering side, but the label itself really wanted us to be more like, let's define, are you an electronic band or are you a rock band? We really need to kind of stay in the lane and stay there. And to me, I always had such a hard time with that, because my favorite bands growing up, like Depeche Mode and New Order,
I was going to bring
those bands weren't like that at all.
Yeah,
they would have one song that was totally programming, and the next song that had 0 programming, and it was just a 4-piece rock band. And I was like, so why can't those things coexist? Because they do in the real world. And so I always had a hard time with that, because like, if this song doesn't need programming, or does, depending on the flip side of it, I don't want to force something, just to stay like, oh, but we got to keep everything the same. To me, that's so one-dimensional.
We're not downloading a track to like fill in a space on a song. Like, these are things that we wrote or you wrote, and so it's just as creative as like, it's still an instrument. Right. So
if it's there, we felt like it was necessary to be there.
And that's why that's kind of cool, because when we went to a 3-piece, we initially were using some of the programming to like fill in maybe something that was missing from Cole not being there, or just feeling like that song needed a little bit more. Or maybe it was like, I had this idea and I didn't really have a way to like present it to you guys other than to like program it. But that helped nurture into like your music influences and like, well, our music influences too, where that's actually part of the writing, where it's not like we were trying to fill a space or just use that as a presentation of an idea.
Right.
Like that's part of our influence and part of our sound.
Yeah.
And we have tons of songs that don't have any programming.
Well,
and we have some that
like you look at Circuitry and it's got
part of the song.
stuff like On the Other Side on there, which is very programming heavy. And I'm trying to think of the other, like blanking on the name, the arpeggiation. Dadgummit, I'm totally blanking. Apparitions, thank you. Stuff like that those elements are really prevalent and important to the song. But then you kick it over to Circuit or to Fever Dream. My brain's dead at the end of this day. You kick it over there, and it's that most of that album is just guitars and I've got some stuff in there, but it's really just for vibe, for texture, for feel, that kind of stuff. It's not like a driven electronic style song.
It's not a line in the song.
Right.
But when we do that, I really like it because I love bands like Depeche Mode and Nine Inch Nails.
But my thing is that's the way I want it to be. I don't want us to feel like, well, we have to have this or we don't want this because that's what we always do.
Yeah.
We just want to write. We want to write what we want to write, and if it needs it or doesn't need it, that's completely up to us.
But think like there's bands like U2 and Radiohead and Coldplay that dabbled in both of those things.
Yes.
Let's do acoustic instruments, or let's do stringed instruments, and then let's add some programming, or let's totally do programming. Like all those bands did that, and all those bands to a degree are influences to us.
Huge. I mean, you think about Joshua, like U2, for instance. You think of Joshua Tree. The very next album is Octoon Baby. Like completely different ends of that spectrum. Both brilliant records, and both very U2. Neither one of them doesn't feel like the same band to me. It's just a different evolution of that band. We've always had some bits of elements of that in our music, so it's not like too big of a evolution, I guess, except on how we've been using it. Like you were saying in the beginning, it was like we need to kind of fill a void because we don't have that fourth member anymore. But then it just became like we're not using it to fill a void. We're using it as an element that is necessary for what we're doing. Like we like it. We want it in there.
It's still expressing yourself artistically with an instrument. It's just through maybe sometimes through MIDI or programming, and some of that has a bad rap. Like some people are like, oh, DJs aren't really, they're just playing tracks or something. And there are some DJs that do that. But there's some DJs that they're a musician. Yeah. Like they're you don't even realize what they're doing.
Right.
And I remember like how many shows have we played where we rolled up to set up, and some of the other bands see us pull out a rig with like a MacBook and some stuff, and they're like, oh, you guys gonna play some tracks? And it's kind of almost like condescending a little bit.
A little judgy tone.
A little judgy. And we're like, yeah, we have some tracks, and it's like, stuff that we wrote, and and they're like, okay, cool, we'll listen to you guys. But then after we play, they'll come up and be like, dude, that was really cool. And like the tracks, they weren't like tracks. It was like
tracks is almost makes it sound like karaoke.
And that's the impression that I think some people get up front, and then after they hear it, they're like, those were really, really cool artistic instrumental pieces that complemented your music, and they were tucked in so well that like I forgot they were there. And we're like, maybe we would have a fourth band member that would play some of that stuff, but we don't.
And we don't want to pay.
But we wrote that.
Yeah.
And
well, like I don't want to pay some keyboard guy to come play the line on Ghostly.
But I was just like, how many shows have we played where somebody after the fact was like, dude, that was like, I can't believe you guys were a 3-piece. Yeah. And nobody was like, oh, the tracks were cheesy, or like they stuck out or too loud. Like,
well, that's the thing too, is we don't use tracks for guitar parts or other. I mean, I guess we can mess with rhythms, but they're not drums.
Maybe when your arthritis gets a little worse.
We're not using it to double up on what we're doing. We're using it as its own instrument.
It's and it's tucked in it's part of the mix of the whole entire song.
Right.
That's why some people have been like, I saw you guys setting up computers and tracks and stuff, but then when I was watching you, I totally didn't even notice.
Yeah.
That those were going. You just sounded huge for a 3-piece, and
right.
I loved what I was hearing.
Well, and honestly, there's nothing even in those that would make us sound bigger. They're just elements of our songwriting.
Yeah.
But all that kind of goes back to our songwriting process, like we were talking about. We've run the gamut of at times coming in with, here's an idea, one member saying, here's an idea I have on guitar or a programming piece or whatever. I've been working on this, I really dig it, but I've taken it as far, like I've got ideas, but now it's time for us to kind of, as a band, really flesh this thing out.
Or not,
yeah.
And say it sucks.
Yeah, which, you got to be open to that too. It's part of that process. Which, just to pigtail on what you just said, I think that's an important thing for a band, for all three of us, whether it's 4 of us, 5 of us, whatever band it is, for all 3 of us have an equal say in everything we're doing.
Yeah.
So if one of us genuinely doesn't like something or just hates where this is going, we have never really had an issue, because we've all just been like, okay, we're supposed to be, we're a team, we're a band, we're all in this together. So we haven't really run into this.
No.
I think we're so like-minded in the way we write and the stuff.
We have a mutual respect, and there's always like a not like, I don't like that, or it's bad.
Yeah.
It's more like we're just not vibing with it as a group, and sometimes it's like, that was your idea and it's cool, and sometimes you just keep that as your own, like, because we all have our own individual music.
Yeah.
So it can still just be your idea that you work with, just when you're presenting it as, maybe this is something we want to work on. It just doesn't go anywhere and we don't vibe with it, and that's totally fime.
But we've never gotten into like a big argument over a song or idea at all.
No.
Not songs.
And I think that part of it, like if someone has an idea, or a lot of that discussion happens in like production.
Yeah.
Like we've recorded stuff when we were trying to like work on sounds or add something to it or put another layer down of a guitar or whatever, and we don't ever say like, that's stupid, or that sucks, or I don't like that. It's more of like, I hear what we're trying to do, but maybe it needs to be more this way and not that way,
right.
and we're sculpting it to do something we're trying to hear. But when we're writing, it's been more like, we can just kind of tell, like when we're trying to do something and it's like not quite latching together, we just start letting that fade off and start trying something else until it all starts to lock together. Mm-hmm. And then we start like getting momentum on that thing.
Because some of those ideas may not pan out, but they inspire a new idea that none of us had. Mm-hmm. So, like you were saying, in post-production, sometimes we're adding some lines, or like, I have this guitar part stuck in my head, and I'm like, oh, I had this other guitar part stuck in my head. And we try both of them. And as a group, we're like, we don't really like either of those. But because we just did both of those and listened to them, it, like, we one of us has a brand new idea that just came out of nowhere because we heard that, and then all of us are like, that's it.
Yeah, that reminds me of, you remember in Fever Dream, when we were doing Awakening, there was like several takes of it, but we would do the whole song.
Yeah. And
at one point when it has its peak, I was in like, I would take different pathways in those takes. It wasn't like playing the same thing. And we kind of Frankensteined it. I remember you heard something like, well, you play this one line at this one spot that was really cool, and I'd like to keep that. Like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But it seems like that line ends this way. But that ending was part of some other take, and we had to kind of like make them fit together that way. That's the type of thing, like we're trying to sculpt it from various ideas that
I wonder if we're lucky in that way, because I'm sure there's so many bands out there. You hear about bands that have a lot of animosity, you know, in them, and I wonder, I mean, some of those situations and some of those times where you're writing can just turn so toxic because one guy is just on a completely different place than the other guy, and they're just butting heads. And I mean, we've had that some in the past with the other band, where we would run into things, because I mean, you and I were always way more on the heavier like programming, but also heavier music style stuff, than some of the other guys were, and so it was hard for us to find kind of a happy medium in a lot of those things. Never like a knockdown, drag out kind of thing, but more tension than we've ever had. Like I can't even really recall a time where we've had a lot of tension. It's just been more like, oh, okay, cool. Well, what do you think about pivoting it that way a little bit? Like I really like that line, but what if you went here instead of there?
Yeah.
And usually we're all very like
collaborative.
Yeah, very open to okay, let me try it. If I don't like it, I'll just tell you I don't like it. But let's let's at least see the idea through.
I think it might be different if someone showed up and said, "I have a completed song for our band, and you guys add some bass to it and put some rhythm behind it." That's a very different type of songwriting,
right?
And you can tell by like. You could almost just be a guitar and singer, or a piano and singer, and you've got accompaniment instruments that you're adding as you get that bigger. That's different. But what we're doing is, even if we bring like, I've got this idea to the table, or part of a song, or a skeleton of a song, we're kind of putting it on the table like Play-Doh. Like, let's see what we could do with this.
All three of us are putting our flavors in it.
Yeah, we're open to letting it get messed up and changed. And
I think one of the closest times I can remember that was on the other side. Like I had a programming piece that I've been working on for a long time, knowing that like I want like 10% done, because I'm not trying to finish a song. I've got an idea, and I know I want us to take it where we're going to take it as a band, not just where I take it and then I just say here's what we're playing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I feel like that dynamic can feel like you're just a hired gun, and then you're no longer feeling like you're part of a band. I'm just being told what to play.
And there's a style difference. Like I think just like from, let's say, drums, when you're thinking of certain types of genres like, I don't know, pop or country or whatever, it is more of an accompaniment background instrument that's there to support a main melody and voice. But what we're doing, it's I guess right up there with those things. Like the drums also are part of, just as important as the vocals, because of the way the accents that uses and the types of time signatures that we do.
It's not just a rhythm section or something.
We're thinking more orchestral, and like everything has to combine together to make this sound, instead of just, this is a song that we've got some accompanying instruments.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of bands that are like, hey, there's this sweet guitar lick.
Oh yeah.
And then the drums and bass just follow it. You know?
Well, I was thinking of Euphoria off of Circuitry, where I remember showing up with that that guitar line and that little riff. But it took us getting that together and going, okay, what if you did this 2 times, and what if you did this over here instead, and what would be a kind of a bridge idea, and the stops and starts that we all started sculpting with it. I didn't show up with Euphoria written. I showed up with some guitar lines and said, how should we put these in an order that would be cool?
Well, the cool thing though is our dynamic. Even if you had shown up with a finished song, I still think you would have been open to changing it. Morphing it into something a little bit different than what you had brought to the table, and it wouldn't have been like a fight to get there. It would have been like, yeah, cool, I like that.
I think we were lucky in that we are very vulnerable. In that we can bring something to the table and be feel
okay
like
if
you're not gonna like it, that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. It's still, I think it's cool, and it's mine. I know some bands, like obviously there's singer-songwriter bands that maybe the band name is John Smith and the band is the John Smith Band. And there's other bands that are an actual band, but there's still kind of a clear leader, songwriter that kind of like directs and coordinates everything, and everybody kind of follows. And we're all like equals. In every respect.
Otherwise, you end up being Oasis and everybody hates each other.
But I'm thinking too on like bringing a riff to the table, or even just coming up with something on the spot and being like, you're just dinking around a guitar and you're like, oh, this is really cool. And we're like, yeah, that's really cool. Let's play around with it. And that happens a lot with guitar. just in general with a lot of bands.
Yeah.
But we do that equally with everything. There's been so many times we're setting up and getting our amps and stuff ready, and JD started just this drum beat, and we're like, dude, that drum rhythm is really cool, and I'll get like a bass line stuck in my head that goes with it, and we'll just start like, you're the one that came up with the lick, and it's a drum lick,
right?
And there's a lot of bands where like, who writes a song around a drum beat that somebody just did for like 8 seconds, and everybody else is like, wait, do that again, that was freaking cool.
Yeah.
But we've done that with everything. We've done that with, like, you were doing a MIDI thing or a programming thing, or it was a drum beat, or I had a bass line, or you had a guitar lick or something. I mean, so many songs we've started with something completely just a very small, little, tiny sparkle of
that's
literally
true.
just a couple of drum beats.
Well, the interesting thing is whenever there's that guitar line, you're just like, oh, I love that, let's work on that. And then we flesh this whole thing out, and it becomes this amazing tune, but that guitar part really ends up being like a 20-second part of the bridge. And everything else has gone somewhere completely different. But that's part of it. That's just part of how we just keep molding it until it becomes the thing it's supposed to be. And that thing still started it, but it now is like a minor role in the overall song.
Well, in some other songs, that one got cut. But then, like, to the point, that was an inspiration,
right?
That kind of got juices flowing, and something organically grew outside of that, but that was like the seed that started it. And like, we're all okay with that, because it's like, I still really wanted to make a song on that really cool guitar lick, and we're like, we may still do something with that later. But that gave us all this thought that we all synced on, and we wrote this whole other song in like 15 minutes.
I think part of that is because we don't look at it like, what's my guitar part or what's my drum part.
Right.
We're writing a song, and there may be a part where I'm like, it doesn't make sense to have guitar there, because that's what's best for that song. I think there's some things, and I know the guitars has a wide range of different sounds, but I've tried to even not sound so much like a guitar. Where instead of like a jangly percussive strum, I'm throwing these high effects on different things to make it like, is that a guitar or is that a program part?
Well, I was gonna say, there's
there's
definitely things that you've done that almost sound more synthy than they do guitar, which in what we do really works, and then there's other things that's just a big old guitar riff, and so we kind of are all over the place with that stuff, but that's what I like about what we do is we're not like stuck in this one lane of things that we kind of cling on to, and
it's not about
all open to being like, no, let's go outside of that,
and it's not about it being technically difficult or technically shiny. Sometimes we're okay with something super simple and rudimentary if it sounds right. One string doing something simple. Sometimes if it's memorable and it relates to somebody, it doesn't matter if it's hard or easy to play.
I mean, if you like it, you like it. It's if it comes down to if it works, then it works. It doesn't have to be particularly intentionally difficult or trying to impress anybody. That's not the goal.
And I think that what we end up with is different than what we would have ended up with individually.
Oh, for sure.
We have very similar taste in influences, but we also have such a range that there are some things that I've listened to that you wouldn't.
Well, that's one of my favorite things. I always tell when I'm talking to my wife about the way we write. Sometimes we have a lot of similarities in things that we all like, but we also have a lot of differences, and a lot of that stems back to what we came up listening to, like as kids, like younger kids in high school, or I think high school and college is a very formative musical time for everyone, and so what you were listening to back then really influences what you write. And we had a lot of similarities in like Radiohead and again Depeche Mode, Cure, stuff like that, but we had a lot of differences in earlier music with heavier stuff or whatever, pop stuff, whatever it is, and the way those things all combine makes us unique, and that's what should make any band unique, really.
Yeah.
It's just you're bringing all these different things that really shouldn't work together, but magically they work really, really well together.
I think the way to get those to work together is to be collaborative and vulnerable and willing to change things.
Holding on to things very loosely.
Yeah.
Like when you come in with an idea, I think there are times where we might be like, we might fight really hard for something that we really, really dig. But most of the time, I feel like we come in with, I have this idea I really like, but I'm also willing to like let go of it and let it change.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because if you get so stuck in no, it has to be this, it has to be this, then you're very limited on where that thing can grow to.
It's going to sound like a so-and-so song.
Yeah, and I don't think we've ever really had that. I think we've all been really good with being open to that thing that you brought to the table changing. And not being like, no, this is my thing. I think you run into a lot of problems when you do that. Yeah. And I don't think that's our nature. None of us have ever been like that. And I think it helps us a ton in just being open to this going somewhere I didn't anticipate it going.
That's what's fun for me. I mean, I think I've also done, written and done stuff solo. And I really enjoy the collaborative back and forth of the band. Like I feed off of and feel like I'm challenged and write better things with a group, because I have to compromise and stuff, and you push me to do things I wouldn't have thought of or wanted to try. Yep. And it ends up being a better song.
And a lot of that's real time, organic. And I mean, there's been times we came together and wrote some songs where we didn't even hardly speak to each other. We were just like, it's been a week, man. Yeah. And just start playing, and we just came up with 3 song ideas, and we spoke 9 words to each other the whole time.
Yeah, there were nights, a lot of that stuff landed on Circuitry. Or I'm sorry, on Fever Dream, where there were nights where we come in and just start playing, just improvising, and the next thing you know, 2.5 hours have gone by, and we're like, I needed that. And then you go back through that stuff later, like, oh my gosh, there's gold in here.
Yeah, but the problem is now we have 9 new song ideas, but because we're so okay with things changing and working off each other, we'll come together the next week and say, we had 9 really cool song ideas. Let's take 3 of those and work on those. Well, we take those 3 and write 3 totally separate new song ideas.
3 more.
So now after 2 or 3 months have gone by, we have 50% of 20 songs that we really want to work on. But we can't just keep coming up with new crap that sounds really cool that we love, that's different, because we're trying to work on this other thing. We just never finish it.
I've noticed that too. One of the things, it's a pro and con, or a catch-22. We've gotten to a place, I felt like in Fever Dream, where there was a lot of that, just let's kind of just play on feel and take a cue from one another and just see what happens spontaneously, which was really cool. And we kind of learned a way to put stuff together, and if it's not quite gelling, we automatically can tell and move on. Yeah. The downside of that is if something is working well and it locks in, you do have to, like you said, revisit that and start polishing it and saying, let's do this 3 times, and let's all, and not every time if you want it to be just kind of a free form thing, but if you want to write a song that's got, something to latch onto, like a chorus or whatever the case may be. And I think sometimes we're so, we've become so nonverbal and spontaneous that it makes it more difficult to come back. It's
very hard to stay on that structure.
Yeah.
Put some structure to it, because we're so used to freeform now.
True.
That we have to kind of find a center.
So for us, I feel like the 3 ways we really have done this is there are times where someone's brought an idea to the table and we've kind of worked it out and all that kind of stuff. The other one is we've just sat in a room and been like, hey, let's work on a song. We had that riff that we really liked. Let's try to work on that. And then the third way has just been, we just came into the room and wanted to just relax and play, just because we needed it from a group therapy standpoint, where we just needed to be able to just get rid of
creative output,
the crap that we've been dealing with in our jobs, personal life, whatever it is, that we just needed time to get in a room and just let all that stuff out.
Yeah.
Is there one of those that you think is more effective than the other, or one that you like better?
That's tough. That's a tough question. I think that
they serve different purposes.
Like the one where we let it all out is like when we're at capacity and we feel like there's nothing that we can that I can pour out, and it's like a pressure valve.
Yeah.
That's when it's like fever dream type stuff. Then there's times where like, let's bring something to the table and work on it. That feels like it's work, like not in a bad way, but like it's a structured, I need some capacity or bandwidth in order to put some energy into this, no, that.
Yeah. Well, one's way more task based.
Yeah, and I think that's why we've drifted towards a little more recently the freeform type stuff, is because we're all out of capacity.
Yeah.
We all have so much going on in the past couple of years, especially recently, even so, that it's like, I don't know that I want to sit down and work on something per se.
Just want to let it happen.
Let's just
Well, and the nice thing is because we do practice in a full production studio, that we can just record everything.
That is true.
And then we can go back through.
Thank you, JD.
We can go back through and say, okay, this was crap, whatever. But this 20 minutes right here is way too long, but there is absolute gold in here that we need to mine.
Well, and that's a big thing too, is that we record what we're doing while we're doing it. That's spontaneous.
Yeah,
that's kind of
what I was going to say,
our secret sauce.
Those two different things in my mind serve two different purposes, because I feel like we all have a creative need that's more spontaneous and organic, but also kind of more social. Like you just, I don't have any ideas, I just need to play, and I want to play with you guys, and we sync up, and it's kind of non-verbal communication. But then on your own, you may have your own creativity at home or in your car, or you have something in your mind, and that's kind of your more personal thing, but then you're still bringing that to the table, and we get to work on it together, and it's kind of fulfilling that I have this itch I need to scratch that was mine, and I want to see if this works for you guys or doesn't. And that's totally different than the like us just kind of organically playing together. Yeah. So I wouldn't say that I like one or the other. Yeah. They're just two different needs that all of us still need filled.
I kind of visualize it to like, if one of us shows up and starts like building part of a doghouse, and the others start like contributing to it till we build the doghouse, versus just playing catch, throwing a ball back and forth,
But like, if you have an idea that you can't get out of your head, that you've been sleeping on for weeks, it's therapeutic for you to get that out.
Right.
But then other times it's different, where you're like, I don't have anything, I just need to play with you guys.
Yes. For me as a drummer, that I don't play guitar or piano. I can play by ear on piano or keys or whatever, but I don't. It's not like I can't read music like that. So for me, like a lot of my ideas just come from programming and something like that, or a vocal line or something like that. But that is sort of my outlet a lot of times to bring something to the table, because I'm like, I had this melody idea and I put it down in programming form because I can't play guitar to show you. And so I love when I'm able to do that and come to the table and be like, it doesn't have to stay like this, but here's the idea that's in here right now. What can we do with it? Yeah. I love that from my perspective, just because I can't walk in the room and play a bass part or a guitar part and say, what do you think about that? So that's the way I can kind of bring something to the table. But I think I like that equally with the improv-y stuff.
They're just different.
One of my favorite experiences is when we're just playing, just improvising in the room. There'll be times where I haven't even opened my eyes in 10 minutes. I'm just playing off of y'all and having fun, and then one of y'all will start playing something that resonates in my brain, and I can physically just kind of like sit up like that, keep doing that kind of thing. I think that's happened a million times where it's like, oh my gosh, whatever you just did, keep doing that, and let's work on that. Let's go that direction for a little bit. That's one of my favorite things, because it's just all of a sudden this was all great, but then all of a sudden there's this light bulb that went on, and then that becomes the thing that we kind of drift towards.
Yeah.
And we all three have the control to do that, and I think that's a big thing, is just the mutual respect that we have for each other, and that if I'm like, hey, that drum part or that guitar part, or you're like, hey, that bass part, nobody's gonna be like, why is the drummer telling us what to do?
Right, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
We're all like, you know,
Stay in your lane, bro.
if somebody had a big enough moment where they're like telling us to do something, we're like,
all right,
let's figure out,
go
like,
on it.
yeah, somebody
let's see
saw
what
a
that
light,
sounds
somebody
like.
saw a light, let's go explore, let's see what's down there.
Honestly, I
And
feel like that's how
we-
waiting came about, because there was a moment where we were playing, you were playing a guitar part and the bass part together with the drum groove was working so well that all these vocal lines just started rolling
Yeah.
through my head.
Yeah.
And if we ever released our demo, like our recordings of that when we were working on it, the vocal line hasn't really changed. It's just all gibberish.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
not lyrics, but gibberish.
It's
But
all
that-
Radiohead lyrics.
That whole bridge, though, that whole "Do you think you
Roll.
can roll with me?" happened
That was
in
the
that
first
very
part.
first time.
Yeah. That's what we referred to it as
Yeah.
at first.
I mean, like that. Those exact words, that rhythm, everything that was happening in there is exactly the same it was the first time we ever just improv it.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't. I mean, we might have like polished up the lyric to where it made sense, but otherwise, the line and all those parts are pretty much exactly intact.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just one of those moments where it just worked. It just made sense. We just kept going with it.
Well, he had the rhythm change idea of being on the upbeats of the and that spun that kind of inspired you for that vocal part.
Where it fit in the
You could think
gaps,
you could roll,
yeah.
Yeah.
and then that vocal part inspired a counter melody that I was doing, the line that moves up the da da da, and that's how that all started to. It's just kind of the cyclical thing that started to sink in.
It's the songwriting thing is just such a weird. There's something so odd about it, because there are times where you can really, really like hammer a song over and over again, to get where you want it, and the other times it's like it just wrote itself in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there's one that's better than the other, but those are far more satisfying to me when you're just hear it and you're like, oh my god, that's it.
There's a lot of variables. I think it can be how tired are we, how tired is each individual, where are we at this week, that can turn different part variables up and down that change what happens. There's a lot of times for me where showing up, it's kind of like I've just got so many sounds in here that I'll be like, is this your card? Move to the next one. Is this your card? And then when you like, what was that?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go back to that one.
Right.
And then someone will say like, well, what if you did this note here instead? Oh, okay, let me flip that around. And I'm trying to articulate what you're explaining, and you know, that's the type of thing I love, because we end up with something and we'll come back and listen to it and go, how did we come up with that?
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't have done that on my own.
And now how the hell do we play that live?
There have been some times where even recording it, I've been like, what we wrote is hard for me to play.
Yeah.
And it made me a better player.
Now I
because
gotta learn how to play this in real time.
I wrote this really cool guitar part that I can't play very well.
I will say, I think there's an element to our sound that is another kind of part of the secret sauce. Honestly, I feel like Jimmy, like coming from being a guitarist originally to really morphing into a bass player, like in the very beginning, you could play bass, but it was, you know, kind of just filling a role to some degree.
Yeah.
And over time, you've become a really good bass player, but the perspective on the bass is still coming from the ear of a guitarist.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the things that I love about that is it's not all just holding down the root and locking in and that's it. Jimmy brings a lot of alternate melodies and stuff like that on the bass that I don't think we would have otherwise.
Yeah, it's
And
very
so
Cure-like.
I love that we only have one guitarist, because it leaves so much space for that bass guitar to almost be a dual role.
Yeah.
And I think that's not that other bands don't have that, but I think that's something that's unique to us.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that's my influence of like, when I first was like, I want to play bass, was Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, and Robert Bean is the bass player, but he was a guitarist at first, and he played the bass like a bass and a guitar at the same time.
Mhm.
And it was equal melody wise and presence wise as the guitar, and I was like, that's amazing. I've never heard bass like that before.
Yeah.
And so I played guitar at the time, and that was like, maybe I want to play around with the bass. And like, since picking up bass, I love bass.
Mhm.
And like, there's a total, you know, I still absolutely love a more traditional way of playing bass, but like I played guitar for years before I touched a bass.
Mhm.
And I can't like unlearn that or get that out of my head. It's ingrained in me.
Mhm.
And so I do approach it in a different way than I would have if I just learned bass.
Well,
Mhm.
two of my all-time favorite bands are New Order and The Cure, as you well know. Both of those bands, if you pay attention
The bass is
to
very
bass parts,
melodic.
how integral they are to their sound, because
Yeah.
they're so melodic. Now
Yeah.
they're still holding down that low end and locking with that drummer, but the lines are different than your typical bass player,
Yeah.
and they're important. Like if you took that line out and just replaced it with a straightforward eighth note bass part, it would not be the
Mhm.
same, you know, because those lines are so, especially The Cure. The Cure has so much
Mhm.
like that movement on the bass that is, the band wouldn't be the same without that.
Yeah.
But New Order was a lot the same way. I don't know if y'all
Yeah.
listen to them much, but a lot of those parts you recognize are bass parts.
Kind of pioneered that
Mhm.
that feel.
But I think that's why that approach to it resonates so much with me, because I love that sound.
Mhm.
Hearing that guitar part, and you have that bass, that low end that's being held down over there, but it's important to the melody of the song, not just the rhythm.
Mhm.
You know,
There's some songs where we've kind of played around with, like, I have a bass melody and you have a guitar part for the verse, and then later in the song we kind of like tease and play around with, like, I take over your guitar melody and you take over the bass melody. And like we've done that kind of as like a fun thing, but then it's kind of become a little more subconscious sometimes, where we almost kind of like flip
Yeah,
it a little bit.
I think
and
it-
then sometimes in the like a bridge part, we take both of those and merge them
Into
into
a new
like
role.
something new.
Ghostly. I think in Ghostly we did some of that. After the bridge, kind of adjusted the progression to line up more with the bass, and then at the end where it's a hybrid
Yeah.
of both of those parts. And you won't notice it if you're just listening to the song, but if you're trying to zoom in on,
You especially won't
something.
notice if you're not listening to the song at all.
Yeah, if you hear me say Ghostly, you don't know what in the world I'm
Go
talking
listen
about.
to it.
If you're still listening now, and we've been talking for a while, thank you.
yeah, I don't know. I think that's such an element to our sound that I don't know if, I'm sure people do recognize it, but I don't know if they recognize it as much as we do, like how that fits together, because we don't have two guitarists, but it's almost like it's kind of like we do.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
two different, musicians that know how to use their instruments in ways that make sense melodically and rhythmically.
I think that's
Having a bass player that can play, that can hold down, this, not necessarily standard, but the expectation of rhythm is important. But when you get the bonus of added melody and texture to it, not a lot of bands have that.
well, I think it's some of that. That's what we'll hear. It's weird that you guys are a three-piece
Mhm.
because you don't sound like you're a three-piece.
Right.
Because we've had to compensate being a three-piece, where he'll throw different melodies on it, or I play a rhythm with melody in it at the same time, because otherwise, if we had other guitar players, it would probably he may have
I
done that.
might fall
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
a little bit into more rhythm.
True.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not like we're totally, I don't want to use the word compensating, and I don't want to like say that it's better than other bands that have bass that totally locks into rhythm, but it's like, that's just part of what makes us, and it's unique.
Yeah,
and it's
It's the kind
different.
of stuff we're into.
And if you don't like it, that's totally cool. But like, I don't want to. It's not that we're trying to sound different, but we just are different.
Well, I think it works
From
really,
our-
really well with your style of playing guitar too. You have a great balance of riff bass, just big parts, and textural, synthy, kind of almost pad sounding at times. There's a great combo of that. And I just remember, I'm not going to say anybody's name because I don't want to alienate anybody, but I remember from our past iteration of one of our bands, we had a bass player that was very busy.
Oh yeah.
Very, very good bass player, incredible bass player, but almost to a fault, because I remember being in writing sessions or in recording sessions where you're just like, I don't know what the hell to play. There's no room here, and I know how I could tell how frustrating that was, because he and I were having fun because we had all this amazing rhythm going on, but there was so many notes and so much stuff going on that there were a lot of times where you're just like, well, I guess I'll just meh, I'm just filling in.
I'm just putting some accents in.
I feel that sometimes where we're writing something that I'm like, this vibes really well and I love the sound, it sounds cool, but I'm like, I feel like I'm playing something too basic, and should I just be more technical for the sake of like, should I be doing more? And like, I know there's different genres of music, and there's like math rock, and there's a place for that, and there's an audience for that, and I love some of that stuff. But like, I just think back on some of the songs that I grew up listening to, kind of pre-musician or like being a more like technical or experienced musician, where there's some songs that resonate with me really well, and when you go back and listen to them as a musician, you're like, they're just hitting 3 notes. Like over and over again. Like, this is this most simple, easy song to play. A child could play this song.
Right.
But it didn't need anything more busy or complicated or technical for the sake of being that. It's like, dude, this song is amazing, and it's literally just them hitting these 3 notes, and it's not complex.
U2 is a great example of that, because the way Adam Clayton has always played is just almost right down the middle. He holds down that fat, just 8th note thing that's like, I'm going to lock in, I'm going to bring that low end, that rhythm to the song, and I'm going to leave all this room for the edge to fill up, or Bono's voice or whatever. I feel like Larry Mullen approaches the drums a little different than a lot of drummers do, to where a lot of melody comes from what he's playing also in some songs. Some of them he's just like, I'm just here to keep this groove going while Edge is doing his thing. But they play off of each other in a way that's very unique, because they've been a band since they were like teenagers. So, but Adam is a great example of that. Like, if you take U2 versus The Cure, the approach is 100% different ends of the spectrum, but they're equally effective, just in different ways. And so there was never been anything wrong with Adam just sitting back there hitting the quarter notes and driving, while Edge is doing his thing, versus The Cure, you got like 2 or 3 guitars, key parts of this bass line that's
it's like a mosaic of all this stuff. I was thinking of too, like Jane's Addiction. The actual composition isn't all that difficult, or it's like I was thinking of Jane Says. It's like 2 notes, but they just make that work, and they work around it. And there's some things that I think that it reminds me of like Cephalalgia on our first album. It's got more of a rhythmic bass line that's just a repetitious line, and I'm just making noises and accenting on some chords, because that's all it really needed. Because it's kind of filling up the the direction or the momentum of the song, and then we lock in on the chorus. Those type of things. I think we're able to read when, okay, I'm gonna kind of spread out and do some spacey while you hold that down.
We're really good at not doing more just for the sake of doing more.
That's what I was saying. Like,
whatever really feeds the need of the song is what matters.
I'm like, is this really all there is to it? Should I add some fills here, do some alternate notes? But then I think on it, and I'm like, I really like the way it feels and sounds, and it's great. Like, I don't think somebody's going to be like, well, he's just playing 3 notes. And if they do, like, cool, fine, whatever, dude.
Maybe we're not
the band for you.
Maybe go listen to all the
Dream Theater.
Maybe go listen to all the old music too. That's just like the same 3 chords.
But maybe go listen to Primus or something.
Yeah, gold record hits.
Those are all great bands. They're just not who we are.
Right.
Well, if you're a bass player or a drummer or whatever, a guitar player, you might listen to Van Halen or Primus or Rush, and they are absolutely different bands, but they attract specific types of musicians who are interested in that technical part of it.
I think a big part of our sound too is just dynamic, and some of that's us feeling each other out when we're playing, because sometimes we play something that just is real vibey and cool, and it builds, and that build like will inspire you into something else. So I think of like awakening, like I'm playing a very basic, locked in with the kick, rhythmic bass line the whole song, and then as it builds and gets to the end, I felt inspired to like open it up from there. But that gives me that room and space to open it up where you notice it, and then you notice the contrast. And because if you hear something that's just the bass has been flying all over the place doing scales this whole song, I didn't really notice this different scale over here or whatever. But I think we have a lot of the music that we listen to, we like that very emotional building,
the slow burn,
and the dynamic changes.
We're definitely guilty of that.
Yeah,
a lot of our stuff is like that, which I'm fine with.
Yeah, I'm fine with it too. But yeah, I feel like sometimes that gives us room to make something bigger if we do want it to at some point in the song, without it just being too busy or complex. And it's just, I think whatever we think feels and sounds great is we're okay with. There was just a period of time where I was like, is this it? Like for this song, I just need to play these 3 notes. Like I feel like I should be doing something. Like I've been playing for too long just to play 3 notes.
Well, I think one of the great signs of maturity, both in a musician and in a band, is not thinking from the standpoint of what awesome thing can I play?
How cool do I look playing?
It's not that. I think that's the immaturity on the beginning of every musician is, I just want to show off or whatever. But I think when you reach a level of maturity in music, you look at it from more of, am I necessary right now, or is this song better with me out of it for the moment? Like I would rather not be playing here because that's what the song needs than to be playing triplets and trying to show off on what I'm doing. Like that doesn't fit or doesn't like further the song.
Sometimes that comes along with the mutual respect thing we have too, where like we all really liked this guitar part, so for this part of the song I want to play something more reserved because I want that to
just want to
stick out more and support it. But then later in the song that may totally change.
Once I'm tired of that guitar
instead
part,
of us just trying to always outplay each other.
Right.
Well, it was interesting, and it depends on kind of what you lean towards. I remember a friend of mine came to see us and said he's a bass player, and he said our secret weapon was our drummer. And I was like, yeah, man, I mean he does it all, you know, and and you wear a lot of hats.
It's really just this one.
But one of the things, a lot of hats the same style.
Just my Stars hat. Yeah.
But one of the things we were talking about is how like a lot of songs I may be playing 2 strings in some melodic way when what's maybe more technically challenging is happening somewhere else. I can play scales, I can play difficult things, but it doesn't need that. And so if you're trying to hear like who is the most belabored musician, you might zoom in somewhere on a specific song. But if you're just trying to hear, and we've also had people hear us and say, man, like using what you're using, like we said with the programming, you guys are composers. Instead of some good friends of ours in now I can't think of the band because I'm on the spot, but that we've played with quite a few times. 3-piece guitar.
The infamous,
yes.
From Denton, yeah.
Yeah, really good friends of ours, and that's one of the things he said I thought
Those
was
are
really
fun guys.
Really meant a lot. Was
not mushrooms, but fun guys.
Yeah, he said like he said, man, we're just a jam band, and I'm like playing guitar solos and stuff, and just having a good time, which they are a good time. But he was saying, you guys are like composers, and that was a really big compliment.
In the parking lot, like 1 a.m. in Deep Ellum. That was
yeah. And our bands are nothing alike sonically, but having that kind of a respect for, we're just doing something different. We're just, and you can tell the difference between where the emphasis is based on kind of what you like to do. But I'd also be curious, like if we have people listening to this that are writers or that want to be writers or that are in bands or used to be in bands, like what was your process? What did you learn? What did you do? What worked? What have you been curious about?
What didn't work?
Yeah.
And I don't want this to sound like self-serving, like we're all talking about how great we are. We're just talking about this is what we know. This is our process. This is how we work with each other, and that we are all equals, and we're all songwriters, and we have respect for each other.
Well, and a lot of that just kind of came with time too. Like I don't know that we write stuff the way we did when we first started playing as a band.
Yeah,
I feel like it's morphed
evolved.
a lot.
Yeah,
we just really started figuring out, some of what I think has really changed was during COVID, when we were all sitting out here a lot because we couldn't go anywhere, we couldn't play anywhere. We really changed. We really kind of had a come to Jesus meeting about how are we going to approach our live show differently,
Yeah.
And we wondered
if they ever come back,
if we ever get another one. And we really all kind of landed on just wanting to improv more, wanting to open it up more. And we started doing that when we were able to play live again. But that really bled into how we started writing a lot more. Not that we hadn't done it before, but I feel like we put more emphasis on that after that fact, because we just saw the spontaneity and the power of that in the live element, and started utilizing that a lot in the way we were writing music in here. And I think a lot of that just comes from the excitement of playing as a band in a live setting. We get to somewhat experience that even in a studio, because the three of us are just sitting there playing together.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you're going to do that's going to be wrong.
Free,
right?
Which is sometimes also live
of 3x3. It's interesting that you mentioned that too, because I remember those days where we were saying if we can do some like in between songs, kind of either morph a song to another or do something improv-y. Instead of dead space or trying to talk and not knowing what to say while we're also tuning and also doing whatever.
Yeah.
And we started trying to do that. And at first it wasn't great.
Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it worked really well. Sometimes it didn't. But
we were just throwing noodles at the wall.
I think it gave us a sense of confidence with it, though, and we took that.
It was a muscle we ended up working on.
It was definitely some growing pains with it, but I feel like it was worth it because it got us. We kind of got over that hump. In the beginning, it was just a little bit like it felt a little forced, just because we wanted to go that direction. But on some level, it had to be forced in order for us to get past the fear of it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I love improving. I love just going with the flow in a live setting, but still, as a three-piece band, or as really any number of band, but as a band in a live setting in front of people, it takes some cojones to actually just be like, we're going to go off script for a minute and a half here and see where this goes. And we may fall flat on our faces.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's not.
So be it.
It's not out of a confidence of, we know we're like super cool and we're going to knock this out of the park. It's out of a confidence of, we're okay for you to see us fail in real time.
Look how ugly this is.
But that's the thing, though, is we want it to be authentic more than anything.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And you saw it not work, and that's fine.
Well, and we learned that's real ugly. I'm going to learn how to cover that.
Right.
Like we learned some things that were now, even when it doesn't quite jive like we normally would like it to jive, others can't tell.
True.
We can tell, but others like, that was really cool. Like we just ended up like, making a stopping point and going to the next one.
We are very self-critical.
And they don't know that. Yeah, oh yeah. Right. Most artists are very, very self-critical. And I think like Fever Dream was a good example of how we felt like almost like we could keep on going trying to make it better. And we had to find a stopping point. That like worse than it's ever been. And which is a cool thing, but there's still things to this day I've thought of like, oh man, what if we would have done, and it's just part of the.
Whoa, we need to work on the like 35 new songs we have, Josh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there
The
are
half
things-
of 35 new songs.
I mean, as you know, right now, as I've been working on some of the remixes of like our older stuff, there's things in there to this day that are nearly a decade old that I'm like, I wish we would have done that, or I would have done this differently or that differently. But I mean, we still would have put out our debut to this day if we had just kept noodling around with everything.
Yeah.
if one of us wins the lottery and this is our full-time job, we can do that.
Yeah, true.
We just gotta
Wait,
play it.
are you saying that if you win the lottery, you're going to share it with us?
Uh,
I heard it. You heard it.
no,
Yep. It's on
not-
video. It's
I'm not going to
saying
win
it.
the lottery.
He's going to win like a $10 scratch off. And I
You're
just
doing
share it with
McDonald's
us.
I
Monopoly.
brought you.
Everyone's got a Big Mac.
I brought you a $3.33 gift card.
McNuggets on me.
I really want to see you go through a store and ask for a gift card with $3.33 on it. Specifically.
It still can't be split evenly 3 ways though, because that's like an infinite number.
Ooh.
You can't.
Yeah.
I thought
Somebody's going to have to take $3.34,
If
and
the
then
multiverse is indeed infinite, then what's
stopping that?
stopping it? What's the end really?
Well, there is no
Man.
But with that, I think
that was a great
that's a good episode.
great conversation, guys.
Yeah,
That's some great group therapy we just had.
absolutely.
No, seriously, I really that's something I think that is close to our heart as a band, is just how we approach these things, and I'm very curious about how other artists do it.
Mhm.
You know, so I know in the last video we were encouraging people to ask questions or whatever, and just like Jimmy was saying a while ago, I would love comments from other bands or other artists.
Hopefully, we get those sirens in this too.
Oh, we got them in that plane that went over earlier. I bet that's in there. I just hope we're in it.
I like these conversations because it's not like we have had all of these conversations and we're like, oh, let's talk to people about how cool we are. Like, some of these conversations are us actually really talking about some of the stuff that we've been doing for years that we've never actually really talked about.
Yeah. Plus, most people that are watching this already know how cool we aren't. So there's no.
I think too. Like, morale's been tough, not for the band in that we ever want to quit, but just generally speaking in America and
And beyond.
and you know, we've all talked about off camera things that we're still trying to, you know, get through, and everybody's got their thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, having these conversations does put some perspective into, you know, where we've come from and
It's too much.
the road.
Perspective.
Yeah, the road we've gone down.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think I just show up and I'm ready to, let's just play, or what are we doing next, or what's next, or where are we going, and it's good to stop and think about where we've come from. And
Dude, that's the whole idea behind group therapy. That's
Yeah.
what this is.
yeah,
Let's just be able to sit around and get it all out,
Reflect.
talk it through.
now we're gonna have to think of some more topics.
Do we need a wrap-up statement, or did we already do that? Are we good?
The wrap-up statement is the Robot Bonfire theme song.
Well, we're glad you guys joined us for group therapy. Thank y'all for listening and watching, and hopefully you'll continue to do so. Goodbye.
Stay healthy.
Are we still recording?
Yes. Literally, the stop button is right there. I'm just too lazy to reach it. I was even that close to it, and I didn't hit it.
Just touch it.
Let me see if I can hit it with these keys.
Shattered iPad. All right. Let's go eat some wines.